Now we're all here, we're in the middle of Fareham Creek, that's in Hampshire, England, UK, and you're joining me for a little paddle. And I thought I'd do another musing video just to bring you up to speed on what's going on in my crowded mind. And I've realised there's a term that's being bandied about known as being awake, and I don't actually know where this comes from, and but I find it's a loaded statement. And now I've seen people saying, are they awake? Are they awake? It just means, have they looked at life a little bit differently to the majority of people? And there are some derogatory terms being thrown out at people who haven't looked into the things that these people who refer to themselves as awake have looked into. And one of them is NPC. I've used it myself, sadly, and this comes from the gaming community, and it stands for non-player character. And they're the people in the background in the computer games that are just serving a purpose to fill up the computer game. And the other one is a normie, and these are the people who get born and just do what they're told until they eventually hit their grave. And I don't like these terms because it's judging somebody, and if somebody chooses not to activate their free will, then that's up to them. Once they are aware they have it, and when, I mean, I'll give you a clue of example of free will. It's quite simple, the word no. If you learn how to say no, then that's free will, and you'll find lots of people trying to convince you to do things you don't want to do, and having that power of the no, I'm not going to do it, well, that's free will right there. But it's a beautiful day, and I thought I'd just show you around the top end of Fareham Creek, because obviously this was one of the upper reaches of Portsmouth Harbour, and it's alleged that William the Conqueror actually landed across behind the camera. I'll spin the boat around in a minute, to where he landed to then go on to Winchester to conquer these isles that I reside on. I don't know whether that's true, but everyone's got to have a claim to fame. It's like, you wouldn't believe the amount of buildings which are in the south of England, especially in Hampshire, which is claimed to be the last night that King Charles I stayed in. They're everywhere. This was the last place he stayed in before he left the country. It's just like, yeah, all right. You can't all have had it. There's more than 350 of them, then you can't have stayed in every place, can he? But oh, it's glorious, isn't it? I'll spin you around just so you can see them swans over there. Look at that. Yeah, so these terms we call normie. Can you see them there? Lovely, aren't they? Normies, you know, and it's just like, it's such a derogatory term. And I think if we're going to move forward and accept that people, we've got to bring our communities back together, we've got to stop using these terms, normie, NPC, and just accept people for whatever belief system they are in. And there are some people who are trying to cause a civil war in our country, and by your fruits you will know them, and they are in high places of power, or what is perceived to be power to them, but all their power gets taken away once the populace just turn around and say no. That's why it's important to maintain your belief that you control this world, they do not. And I think the silly people, I mean, because I think one of the common mistakes everyone makes is they think that governments and these presidents actually make decisions, and they're just script readers. They're not the ones. They're the ones put up for you to judge and hate and ridicule. But let's be honest, the Matt Hancocks and the Boris Johnsons of the world, they couldn't beat themselves out of a wet paper bag. And if you've got all the politicians and you've got them to touch the mace in the House of Commons, and you've got them all to hold hands and come out the building and all the way around the corner, they still wouldn't reach a decision. So, I mean, they are allowed to make some decisions, like they can choose what colour the railings are down the local park, as long as they get a choice of black and green. But that's about it. But I wouldn't give them too much mind. That's just the Matrix show that we're given to have a look at to keep us occupied, thinking that voting can make a difference. And I'll be honest, if voting did change anything, then the proletariat wouldn't be allowed to do it, would we? And it's been, and I'll give you a clue, especially if you're not in this country. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, the BBC, when it was a brilliant channel, it made an excellent comedy called Yes Minister, and went on to Yes Prime Minister. And if you have a look at that, and it's just a great example how government doesn't work, or does kind of fudge through this charade with the papers, and it's just pathetic. And so if you're given that your energy while looking at it, thinking that you're going to change anything through it, then I'm afraid you're mistaken. There's only one way to change this world, and that's inwardly. You've got to look back into the temple and make changes from within. And all that it means is learning how to say no, learning where to put your energy, and also learn when you're being manipulated by others. And I suggest that a lot of you look into subjects like narcissism and psychopathy, because these are terrible, terrible afflictions. And if you attract one of these people into your life, or more than one, you can find yourself in a hole that it just seems impossible to get out of. And you quite often, people who find themselves in these holes also lose their health, and sometimes their life as well, and even in the worst case scenario, they take themselves out, which is tragic. And it's not like society can see these people. They don't shine out like there's anything wrong with them. And in short, there is nothing wrong with these people. That's just what they are, and you have to learn how to deal with them rather than they have to learn to deal with you and their issues. They don't possess empathy. They don't possess a lot of the human qualities that the main mass of people possess, and that's why they end up in places of power, and also why they're so bloodthirsty for other people to die for their beliefs. And it's kind of crazy we find ourselves in this world. But where am I? So you see the tree line behind me. I used to come rowing down here when I was a child, 15, 16 sort of age, and one of my favourite things to do was have a little row up around the tree line, especially in the spring. And on the spring tides, all the kingfishers come down from the River Wallington, and they got their little perches along the riverbank there. And so at high tide, they all fly down, and they've got their little places and diving after the minnows. And they're such a beautiful bird, especially when the sun catches them and they're flying. Just incredible. So that was one of my favourite things. So I'm hoping, now I've got this camera, and I'm hoping to come down here in the summer and actually see if I can catch the kingfishers doing that very thing. It'd be nice. I mean, I don't get them down at this time of year. The minnows don't tend to go up right up to the edges of the water. So that's that. What else did I want to talk to you about today? Well, what I'll do is I'll go a bit further down and I'll pick this back up there. I'm going to spin round, because as we go around these trees, you'll see there's a lovely big herring just ready to catch his daily dose of fish. But the term awaken, where does it come from? Well, it's been given to a certain community, I think, to make them believe they're more privileged than they are, just because they've stumbled across some knowledge, or they smelt something wasn't quite right, and they looked into it, and they feel they're in possession of knowledge which isn't accessible to the majority. And it is accessible, it's just the majority choose not to look at it. So can you see the heron over my shoulder? Ooh, maybe that way. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing what you don't know. And I think to brand these people names, I think is very lower vibrational stuff. It puts you right down into that root chakra, and there's no advancement in hating on people just because they choose not to look into things. What can you do, you say? Well, first of all, we need to become aware of what's going on and slowly talk to our brethren amongst peers and family, and just sow seeds. Don't force it upon them, but just tell them that if they want to know stuff, that you know where to access information, and share it with them. And slowly, one conversation at a time, the people will come to find out what's really happening in the matrix side of the world. But if you leave the matrix side of the world and you just concentrate on yourself, and you accept the fact that you're incarnated and you're on a journey till death, and as long as you achieve what your soul desires in that journey, then the matrix doesn't matter to you, because you already accepted your mortality, and it's time to teach yourself the lessons you need to hear. Now, most people see these crazy tree huggers, as they're called, not understanding that they've accepted their teachings and they're having a different experience within the same place. So if you stare into the scrying mirrors and you look at what the Matrix what it has to offer, then you're not going to find much joy there, are you? Let's be honest. It's all fear-based, Machiavellian mind control, and it's done through a very small amount of people. And if they showed their hand to the man behind the curtain, then we'd soon figure it out, wouldn't we, and pull back. But I think the way to win back our liberties is basically to take back control locally and start there. Now, we've been tricked into going to these supermarkets, and we need to lose them and start buying locally and supporting locally, and just go back to living small but was communicating big. So when someone has a success story, find out how they did it, what they did, and copy it in your area, because obviously geographically we have very different situations. Some places are good for growing, some places are good for grazing, and some places are good for fishing. And so what do we actually need as a society or a species? Well, we need warmth, we need shelter, but we also need entertainment, and we're social creatures, so we need company. And I think maybe going forward from this position now where we are, once we've had this enlightenment of what's actually been going on, then it's time to move on. So the MP, where was I anyway? Normies. Yeah, that's something we've got to stop. And I've just been as bad as everybody else. So because it's born out of just frustration, isn't it? And I think it's because when people realise there's something gone wrong, they look to authority to put it right again, not realising that it's the authority that put it wrong in the first place, and it was intentional. So it's quite a tough pill to swallow if you don't know. What else was I going to say? There's always the odd person that makes a difference, and that's where government is broken. I mean, I'm here on this Tuesday the 16th, and government is broken today because they've allowed someone to talk in there which shouldn't be in there talking according to the system. So there you go. What can you do about it? Blimey, that's a load of Brent geese coming to land. Let me turn the boat around, you might get a catch them. Wonderful, isn't it? Wonderful. The heron hasn't flown off yet. I'll see how close I can get to him, because if I do put him up, he'll only go down a bit. Yeah, so like I said, when a previous video, I was going to suggest about getting to know people again, and let's build these bridges which have been, because in 2020 some evil powers split everyone apart. They was literally trying to get everyone separated so they wasn't be able to take them down, because there's one thing the elites are scared of. It's together we stand, and if they realise we outnumber them so heavily, if they was to be exposed, it's over for them. So this narcissistic, almost psychopathic control system they have, it's on a knife edge for them, and they know it. So it's like, that's why they have to control the media, why they have to control the internet, because if they don't, they lose their power, they lose everything that they've worked so hard to have, and it becomes valueless to them overnight. But I think that would be beneficial for everyone, but what we've got to be careful of, if you do lose the ruling classes, then that would create a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum, so what's going to fill that void if you manage to lose them in some way? It could be something much, much worse. So be careful what you wish for. I think what we need to do is just slowly but surely educate everyone and take back control, but lawfully and legitimately. And the way we do that is a little piece at a time, especially locally. Take back control of the supermarkets so they buy local, serve the people who are local, and get to know who's vulnerable in society, make sure we look after them. That's what separates us from the animals. Make sure you look after the most vulnerable. And also, there's got to be a fair sharing of the wealth, so to speak. And I'm not talking wealth as in money, I'm talking as in the wealth in time and leisure time. We need to make sure that people aren't working silly hours a week just to pay a debt on some money that didn't exist in the first place. That's just an enslavement. That's paper shackles around their wrists. The irony is the money was created in their name in the first instance, so they owe the money to themselves, and they work their whole life to pay the money back to themselves. It's a crazy situation this world's found itself in, but I think it's mendable. I think we can put it right, but only after communicating with everybody the solutions. And first thing we have to do is we have to accept that we made mistakes, and everybody makes mistakes, and forgive those mistakes, and that's the way forward, I think. Let's is he still there? Oh, I'm not making as much ground as I thought I was. Yeah, it's a beautiful day, beautiful day. Oh, I'll probably row through them geese later, make them all get up. That'd be funny. Someone's lost a football over there, but the sun's nice and hidden behind a load of chemical skies again. So, but it was nice today, and I'm glad I see it. It's, I used to do this sort of thing all the time because of health reasons. I can't do it as much as I used to be able to do it. So a day like today is very rewarding for me. I feel like I'm alive again. And now I'm communicating with you guys. It's almost given me a purpose. There he is. Can you see him? Let's see how close we can get to him before he flies off. He might not even fly off. He might just stay there because he knows I'm absolutely no threat to him. But they sit there in the shallows picking off the easy fish. Oh, has he gone? Oh, he went down there a bit. It's wonderful, isn't it? Well, I've had a slow, gentle pull all the way down to the other end here. Caught up with a heron behind me on the side there. He's been just jumping down 20 feet every time I put him up. As you can see, there's loads of birds in the trees behind me as well. And it just takes me back coming out. It's something I don't do as often as I'd like. Mind you, my health won't always allow me to do stuff like this. So. But what I have brought with me is a little bit of labradorite, and I always bring a piece out with me, or a precious stone, and as you can see as I hold that in the light, very grounding. Try not to go out anywhere without a nice precious stone in your pocket. It's makes it feel worth it. Oh, he's flew off again. But just down here, it's like a little oasis here. It's right in the middle of a town between Portsmouth and Southampton. And because I grew up on here, it's second nature to me. I just remember coming down here fishing and building rafts when I was a child. It was great times, wonderful times, very happy memories. And see, the thing is, the children today don't do stuff like that, sadly. The scrying mirror screens have them entrapped, you know, giving them these little dopamine rushes, which, let's be honest, we're to blame, we give them to them. But I don't think we fully knew the dangers when we were given these screens, and I don't believe for a second that human beings invented them. The timeline's too short. I think we were given this technology by something or someone out of our realm, shall we say, and it's just too quick. The time it would take to invent something like that, it should be over hundreds of years, not a couple of decades. But this is the spot I was talking about, just here where this tree is overhanging. This would have been, oh, there goes a cormorant. This is where Lord Nelson would have come up to visit. I think it was Lady Hamilton, if my memory serves me correct, when he was stationed in Portsmouth, because obviously that was the last place he stood on English soil was Portsmouth when he stepped on the Victory, the Battle of Trafalgar. Was that? I think that was 1805. I could be wrong on that. I'll have to check that out. It might be 1806. Oh, I'm not sure. 96. Oh, never mind. Anyway, we'll come back from that in a bit of a pickle, I heard. Death isn't funny. But yeah, as you can see here, where this tree is, this is where there was a landing stage that come out, which the boats used to dock on. Later on, it was used for a pulling station, because there used to be barges on the other side of the creek here. They used to bring in gravel, so it was used as an anchor point with some ropes to pull it in. And let's see if I can see any part of it that still exists. It's not jumping out at me, but this is where it was. I might have to come down here at low tide and see if we've still got the old solid bricks in the mud. And it doesn't matter where you go, where you end up. This is what always confuses me, right? Now, I swear, if they really did go to the moon, when he come down off that ladder and he said one small step for man, I reckon he would have spotted one of them, a supermarket trolley. How did that get there? How did it get there? We're on the other side of the creek. It's made of metal, it didn't float, it stood upright. I would love to know the story of how that supermarket trolley, or carts as you call them in America, got to be there. It's hilarious. Right. Well, there we go. I'm going to come back down at low tide and do a video on this spot, and I'll actually get aboard there, because I can see some of the bricks left over from the landing stage. It's a wonderful place, but I'm going to call that one this video. And like you say, if you like these sort of videos, and it's a bit of a slow just conversation with you guys about my thoughts and the way forward in life, and please come and join me on the next one, and put some questions in the comments so I know where to take this channel to benefit everybody, and to see what most people enjoy, what most people like to hear about. That's the plan, and hopefully keep everybody happy. I'll see you in the next one.